Hello, welcome to today's edition of the Academy. Today we're going to pick up on Sun Tzu's Art of War, Chapter 3, the first part we're going to deal with. Only two sentences we're going to cover this time. There's a lot in Chapter 3 that will be actually applies to the tabletop, but these first two I think set it apart. And it actually refers to the conversation we had in the last chapter, especially in terms of Fabius Maximus. So, I'll just read off his his second and third sentences. And we'll take them one at a time. So the first one is, the second sentence is, hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. If that was applied to the tabletop, that'd be a very boring game. There would be no game, okay? I guess the Tau are pretty good at doing that right now, because who really wants to play the Tau? So they kind of, your opponent's bringing the Tau, you pretty much don't fight. You break the enemy's resistance without fighting. Okay, so I guess in a sense it does apply to the tabletop, but overall, it really doesn't. However, that is in real life. That is really where you're trying to win here. To be a general, you don't want to engage in combat except as a last resort. Now, let's talk back on Fabius Maximus, who again saw that a prolonged campaign would be Hannibal's Achilles heel. He decided to basically wear Hannibal down by not engaging him. He broke the enemy's resistance to fight because, in the end, Hannibal was demoralized. His men were demoralized. Their extended supply lines they're weaker. Morale was dropping. He could not put up a good fight anymore. His army had significantly weakened in terms of combat capability, all without firing a shot or raising a spear or sword in anger. So let's look at the impact of that particular action on Hannibal based on Fabius's plan. Okay, so Hannibal was actually forced through this Fabius's war of attrition or war of delay to go into more of a scorched earth policy. He had, for the next couple of years, now we're talking years here, that's a pretty long campaign away from home base of Carthage, unable to conquer Rome, which is your whole point of being there. He could not support a large army on, basically without battle. He couldn't conquer Rome because the Romans would not face him in open battle, and he had to scrounge for supplies on a daily basis. So he had to send smaller detachments out to do that work, take up those resources, and didn't really have much of an opportunity to fight. Of course, they did do some engagements, but those smaller engagements were a little bit easier for the Romans to handle. They gave as good as they got, kind of a thing. That began to wear on the morale. Okay, so the troops were starting to wear down, morale and strength. They're short of supplies. Hannibal's army as a whole was still very capable, but the political will to fight, even from back home, was disappearing. So in the end, Hannibal was forced basically to give up his plans and leave Rome. So again, Fabius won without engaging in combat, or a major pitched battle to eject Hannibal. That's really the nutshell of sentence number 2 here. Now, obviously that's not, you can write a campaign like that for your games where you've got a series of smaller actions around a larger story of depriving the enemy of that pitched battle. But that's a narrative campaign. But in the actual game, it doesn't really apply much. So, if we can't use that on a tabletop, what can we use? That's the third sentence, and it follows on the second one. Thus, the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans. The next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces. And the next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field. And the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. That's the third sentence. So, assuming you are going to engage in combat, and you haven't defeated him you haven't broken his resistance without fighting, it's not your ability as a general. your highest form of generalship isn't the constant victories. It's the word Sun Tzu used translates to balk. Now, in English, we use the balk in more of a mocking kind of it's a mocking type of word. You balk at the opponent. You complain about mockingly. That's not really the term that's used here. The actual Chinese word translates more. The message behind it is you're thwarting, you're foiling the opponent's plans. So, with that in mind, the highest form of generalship is to foil the opponent's plans. So you have to get in your opponent's mind, either through repetitive engagement with them, play different games, learning them, and figure out what they're going to do, and then build plans to stop them, or be able to discern as the things are unfolding on the battlefield, what is it he's trying to do, and then do something to stop it or foil that plan. That's the mark of a great general. Okay. The next best is to prevent the junction of enemy forces. Now, in a grander scheme, that's bringing larger disparate forces across, from concentrated positions for an open pitched battle. But on the battlefield, the same holds. If you can keep an opponent divided so that their different units cannot provide supporting fire, covering fire, they can't support each other and cover each other's flank, they can't operate as a whole, that's very useful. That's the next thing you were looking at here. Now, of course, any general is going to attack the enemy's army. That's the third. If you're not a general if you don't attack the opponent's army, but that doesn't make you a great general just because you're attacking the opponent's army. It's those first two things that really matter. And then, of course, his third point, or final point, fourth one, kind of ties into his waging war chapter previously. The worst policy is to lay siege to walled cities. The whole concept being that takes so much time and resources, it just drains the morale and equipment and money out of your bank account for the nation, and it doesn't profit you much for what you have to expend. The defender's in a much stronger position there. So, that's what we're dealing with here in this particular chapter, the first two sentences. The first two sentences I want to highlight, sentences 2 and 3. So give yourself some time to think through that and how you might apply the concept of thwarting your opponent's plans on the battlefield as the game unfolds, and then how you could prevent the opponent from coordinating his forces together on the battlefield. Okay, just think of different ways with your chosen army or armies, whatever game system you're using. See if there's a way you could do that. And comment below. We can have a discussion. I'd like to encourage you to offer that your opinions up, and we'll just keep it civil. And we're all here to learn. That's the whole point of this, is to look at different options, different approaches, and see what we can come up with that'll help us on the battlefield, on the tabletop. All right, thanks for staying with me during this episode. Share, like, subscribe, let me know what you think. And again, if you have any suggestions on what you might want me to talk through or bring up, please leave them below. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.